Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to the Mad Max Minute Podcast, the daily podcast where we break down Mad Max 1 minute at a time. I'm Rick.
And I'm Julia.
And today we are talking about minute 26, which begins with the acolytes responding to Toecutter's whistle, and it ends with a young couple in a red Chevy about to be swarmed by a motorcycle gang. What a lovely way to start a Monday.
Yes. This episode, gets quite serious.
Yeah, this whole week gets pretty serious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be some pretty intense moments with some pretty intense situations. Yeah, it's going to be a little rough, mostly for the characters.
Yes.
We're safe because it's just a movie. Just keep repeating that. It's just a movie. So we start, like I said, Toecutter gets to the middle of the road here in lovely downtown Clunes, and he whistles, and he starts getting all of these responses from the gang members, and the first gang member we see in this minute is Mudguts hanging from a building post, and he's like wailing, just wooing with all of his might. And then we see Diabando, who also yells in response. And last Friday, I mentioned that I thought he was the one on the back of the motorcycle dragging Grinner. And I still think that because when we see him yell, it looks like he's sitting back to back with someone. But it also does not look like he's behind the handlebars of a motorcycle. So
yes, I agree.
So I think this is Diabando who has let go of Grinner, and now he's in a situation where the bike has stopped.
Okay.
We never see Grinner after this. We don't know what happened to him.
Right. And they must have circled back around because Diabando's right in there with everybody else.
Yeah.
Like they whoop and holler and then they jump on their bikes.
Oh, yeah.
We get like a wide shot
of a bunch of them just swarming towards their motorcycles.
Yes. And more of them not.
That's true.
It's interesting when your gang leader calls. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that some of them responded with such enthusiasm, and some of them didn't do anything at all.
I counted, because it's very plain to see how many motorcycles actually end up chasing the Chevy. It's 7 motorcycles, which means it's Toecutter, and then just 6 of his gang members.
Right.
There's 17 of them.
Right, but aren't there 7 named characters? Because the 7 bikes, those are the 7 Kawasaki's.
I think so. The 7 named characters.
It's the 7 named gang members.
Because we see Clunk, he runs over to his motorcycle as Toecutter's putting on his helmet, and he throws the pink elephant off the bike.
I was a little bit disappointed that he didn't take the elephant with him.
I would have liked to see his motorcycle with that pink elephant
and strapped to the back,
duct taped on there.
Yes, I thought that would be.
I mean, for one thing, it would help him stand out.
Yes, but we do know that they go back to the town,
right?
So I think there is still some potential that the pink elephant could show up again. They got to go back and get the coffin. Yeah, that they still haven't taken possession of.
Yeah, I mean, I think they signed for it.
Yes, so technically it's theirs.
But yeah, they all run over to their motorcycles and they start suiting up. And last time we talked about the Toecutter's plans and motivations, we pretty much decided that he resolved himself to chase that car because the car almost hit him. He whistles, they all respond, he runs over to the bike and puts his helmet on, and he doesn't, give any instructions. He just kind of gets on his bike and goes. And there are 6 other gang members that just follow him. They don't have a plan.
He is leading by example.
Yeah.
And in almost any other leadership situation, that is how you do it. Mm-hmm. It's, not a good idea in this case, because leading by example means, swinging an axe through a car windshield. But he's the first one to actually make a move on the car. Once they catch up to the car, he's the first one to pull a weapon. He's the first one to actually do damage to the car.
Yeah.
So he's guiding them on what they should do.
Yeah. None of them, while the car is still moving, make a move on the car.
Yes.
They wait purely for him. Speaking of the car, after we see everyone jumping on the motorcycles, but before they pull out, we get a quick shot of the Chevy driving on a road. and there's a big painted word on there that says rail because they're coming up on the railroad. And because I read things funny sometimes, the first couple of times I watched this minute, I thought it said fail.
Oh.
And then I realized, no, that's an R, not an F. But it's like, I thought it was funny that the road itself said, oh, you fail.
Yeah, you fail.
Another thing I noticed on the side of the road, there's a little bit of roadkill on the side of the road, which is like,
I didn't notice that.
It's a bit of dark premonition. You'd be like, okay.
Yes, a little bit of foreshadowing that I probably wasn't intentional.
They're dead meat.
Yes.
They're heading along here. But after we see the Chevy driving, we go back and we actually see the Toecutter pull out. And I love that shot because there are unnamed gang members that are just kind of watching them ride away.
Right.
And it's like, dude, there goes your boss.
Right.
And you're just letting him go.
Yeah.
Like, I thought you were supposed to, like, stick together as a motorcycle gang, and they're not even trying to get to their motorcycles. It's like, dude, that's why they don't get names.
Right. I wonder if it's understood that when Toecutter calls his gang to action, that he's talking to his core group.
His lieutenants.
Lieutenants, yes, exactly. And therefore they know that he's not talking to them. When he whistles, he's not talking to them. He's talking to the group of 6 who are the center, his right-hand men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you got Bubba and Johnny. Then you got Kundalini, Mudguts, Diabando, and Clunk.
Yeah.
Those are his 6 core group members.
So I think it's probably understood that when he whistles as a call to action, he's talking to his core group, not to the gang as a whole.
Yeah. So they all pull out, and then we get another shot of the Chevy driving along a fairly narrow road. Like, there's not a lot of room on either side. And then we cut into the car, and we get our only line of dialogue. This whole minute, it's the subtitle of this episode, no worries.
Right.
And he is not convinced. He's saying that to try and calm her down, but it's like they both know that there's proverbial, feces hitting the fan.
It's funny, I didn't read that. I didn't read it that way until the very last time that we watched it.
Yeah.
In my preparation, I read it as he really thought that he'd gotten away.
Yeah, because when he first says it, he's like,
he looks like he means it.
No worries. And then his expression just kind of like, erodes.
Yes.
And starts to drop.
Right.
And then before you know it,
you can hear the motorcycles in the background.
Yeah. I love the shot they go with because you've got the guy who's driving the car and the girl is looking behind them the whole time. And so we switch to her point of view. And we're looking through this round Impala window you can't even see the motorcycles yet. You can just see they're like a little smudge on the horizon, but you can hear that sound.
Yes. It's interesting, something I hadn't noticed before just now. So we've got Lair driving and with his unnamed girl, sitting in the passenger seat looking behind. That's the exact same setup as Nightrider and his girl.
That is a good point. I didn't even think of that before.
Yep, with the girl looking back to see the law chasing them, and now the girl is looking back, seeing the gang chasing them.
That's an interesting parallel. I wonder if we're supposed to read into that at all.
And it doesn't end well for either pair.
Yeah. Oh, really good point, though.
Yeah. It's hard to tell if filmmakers really mean to put all this stuff in there that we're reading, or if we're just reading it.
Yeah. I got distracted. I got distracted by the fact that there's an empty Coke can sitting
I did
on
notice
the
the Coke can. And how is that Coke can still sitting on the shelf? How did it not fly off to the seat or the floor at some point? And they're spinning out, like pulling out really quickly to get on the road. How did that not fly around?
Yeah. See, I've always been a Coke drinker. I love my black sugar water, and I got distracted by it. It's a little bit of unintentional product placement.
Yeah.
For Coca-Cola there. This podcast is not sponsored by Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. When you want to strip the rust off your metal, Coca-Cola. Oh, gosh. So she's looking out the back window. She sees that little blood, and then she kind of turns around and faces forward. Mm-hmm. And for just the most split second, as we're outside the car again, looking at the back of it, there's nothing. But then the gang just emerges from the bottom of the shot and just kind of
just overtakes
starts
them,
to circle around.
Swallows them.
Like a blob.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can kind of tell that the footage here is sped up, that it's not a one-to-one shot thing, probably because they didn't want to be going full speed with that many actors on motorcycles in that close proximity to each other.
Yes. It gave them the ability to slow things down a little bit, be a little bit more controlled.
Yeah. But it is noticeable just because if you watch the individual movements of the motorcycles, they seem a little jittery, not quite as smooth as you would expect an actual riding video to be.
Yes.
But I think at one point they're like 4 or 5 across on an extremely narrow road. And I've ridden in lines before, lines of motorcycles, and the safest way to ride is offset.
Right.
With one person on one side of the road, and then the next person in line, instead of being right behind them, they're offset on the other side of the lane.
Yes.
And so you kind of go in a zigzag formation. Like if you're going really slow, yeah, then you can ride side by side. But the fact that they've got so many individual riders riding across the entire breadth of the road, it makes sense that they would want to slow down the actual speed.
Yes.
And then just speed it up in post.
Yep.
But after we see them swarm up, we get another shot out that back window. And one of the motorcycles, they're waving.
Really? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah.
I might have to go back and look. Oh, that's fabulous.
Let me see if I can find it. It's at second 35. So much right around there. Did you see it?
Yes. I think that speaks to that even though they're transitioning into a different mindset, a bit more of violence for the sake of vengeance, that they still have a bit of the mindset of violence for the sake of amusement.
Yeah. At this point, I don't think the lieutenants necessarily know specifically what Toecutter has planned for these people.
Right.
And so they're just finding amusement in whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And the fact that one of them is waving, and it took me a while to try and figure out exactly who it was that was doing the waving. Let me see if I can pull it up there. I think it's Diabando, based on the clothing that he's wearing and what I saw in earlier minutes versus what I see in this minute. Because I know he's one of the guys that followed Toecutter.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to find an exact, key or anything like that as to who wears what helmet.
Yeah.
But that'll definitely be forthcoming as we see them ride more often.
Yes.
We'll be able to identify them by the helmet that they wear because they all have individual helmets.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's incredibly unnerving the fact that they are so close behind that Chevy and Diabando's just out there just doing, it's just the tiniest little wave.
Yeah. And it occurs to me that if the Chevy had slammed on its brakes, he would have taken out like 3 or 4 of the bikes.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he would have been killed for it. But, it could have taken some of them out.
Yeah. Because if he slammed on his brakes, it probably would have forced at least a couple of them to swerve in such a way that they could lose control of the motorcycles. It's just he would have to be able to be quick enough to slam on the brakes, take a couple of them out, and then the resulting chaos, speed away.
And then sell his car and
change his name
and everything. Burn the clothes that they're wearing.
Yeah.
And
disappear forever.
Uh-huh.
The danger, and I've seen this happen once before in an online video, where a motorcyclist was cut off on the highway and they slammed into the back of the car, and the motorcyclist actually flew off of the motorcycle and landed on the back of the car that cut him off. And he was left clinging to the spoiler on the car that cut him off.
Yeah, that would not have served the Chevy pair well.
No, that probably would have put them even closer to danger than they really wanted to be. But back inside the car, we get another shot of them being all nervous. And Lair kind of is doing this thing where he's gripping the steering wheel and kind of rocking back and forth.
Like
as if
willing it to go faster.
Trying to make the car go faster out of pure momentum.
Yeah.
Which, physically impossible. maybe psychologically helping in some way, but just he's probably got his foot pressed all the way down. Like, he's probably giving this car all that it has, and it's not enough. Because, yeah, you can have a car with a gigantic engine, but motorcycles are light. They don't need as big of an engine to get as fast as cars like this. And so as much as he's trying to outrun these people...
He has no hope.
Yeah. He's outnumbered. He's underpowered. It's just not an ideal situation in any respect. And it only gets worse for them because, like I said before, the rest of the gang is kind of holding back, but the Toecutter himself is the one that advances up alongside them, and he's got this axe, and it's pretty much...
It's kind of a strange style. It looks like a cross between an axe and a butcher knife.
I think it's just kind of like cut out of a single sheet of metal.
Yeah.
Almost like they found a piece of scrap metal that was particularly hardened, and then he just kind of got it in such a way that it had a handle and then like a cutting edge to it. And this is an example of the weapons that the motorcycle gang carries. Every gang member has a weapon that they end up using on this car. And the weapons are just kept on the motorcycles. Like 24/7 as they were riding around to and from set. The Toecutters has this gigantic cleaver axe just sitting in the motorcycle. And I think it was one of the behind the scenes videos where they actually talked about how they really integrated the weapon into the motorcycle.
Yes.
So that it kind of
had
feels
a storage space meant for it.
Yeah. And I think it'll be, let's see. And this Wednesday, not tomorrow, but the day after, we're going to talk about the idea of the get out of jail free card, which is an IMDb trivia thing that relates to the minute we're going to talk about. But, they would need an explanation of why there are all these weapons on their motorcycles. So we're going to talk about that a little bit down the road. But Toecutter comes up alongside the car and he gives it one good whack along the tail fin. And then it's like he kind of drags the axe along the edge of the car and he gets right up in front of that windshield.
Yep.
Yeah. He gets into place and then he swings.
And then I think that in this shot, his eye makeup is more accentuated than it was back when they were in town. Because that's really the only part of him that you see are his eyes. And they are very menacing. Yeah. And they are very clear. Like your eyes are drawn to his eyes.
But he swings that axe down on the windshield and just goes right through it.
Yes.
Now, this is a really quick shot of the axe going through the windshield. And so I fired up the program that I have that lets me go frame by frame, and that's what I did. And all of the cracking that you see in the corner of the window, all of that cracking is there before the axe actually goes through.
Oh, okay.
Which means that
it's softened up.
Yeah, either they softened it up, or there are
other takes where he didn't make it through the glass.
Exactly. Either
that seems actually no, they both seem likely.
Yeah, so either they went through and cracked it up ahead of time, or there's a video of Hugh Keays-Byrne just on a motorcycle with this gigantic axe just wailing away at the windshield, trying
until
to
he
get
broke through.
And what they used in the final film was finally the situation where his axe went through.
I would love to see that video.
Because I imagine with something like that, where the motorcycle is next to the car and you've got an actor or a stuntman even swinging something to hit the car, they probably had some sort of thing set up where the car and the bike were on a trailer and the trailer was moving.
Yes, that seems much safer than actually trying to pull this off.
Yeah, but I can I want to see that.
That would be amazing.
Just because that's not a light prop. That is a steel plate of an axe. And I imagine just him swinging it over and over again, trying to get it through that windshield. And I mean, he eventually does. And it's a really crazy shot just because it is so quick of that axe coming through. And the response that we get from the couple in the Chevy, they fling themselves to the other side of the car.
Yeah, once again, they panic.
Yeah,
everything they do is panic.
Yeah, they're unable to keep a level head.
Yes.
They're channeling Roop and Charlie when they really should be trying to channel Sars and Scuttle.
Yep.
When we watched this minute, I made a stink about this situation of the axe going through the windshield and then the car spinning out of control on the road.
Yeah, you thought it was an overreaction on the part of the car.
Not just that.
To spin out?
But you see, it's more of a continuity thing.
Okay.
You see the axe go through the window, you see the couple fling themselves to the other side of the car, and then the very next thing we see is the car on its own spinning out, going onto the side of the road, kicking up a bunch of dust, and then we see 7 motorcycles pass. Which means that we're supposed to think that in the time that we saw the couple fling themselves to the other side of the car, Toecutter got his axe out of the window, slowed down enough that he would join the rest of his gang, and then the car would spin out and he would ride by with the rest of his, cadre there.
I do agree that the timing is suspect. Do we know that he got his axe out of the window? I think that'll be clarified, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, the whole window is gone. Which tells me, so that entire section of window is now just a giant hole.
Right.
So that tells me that in ripping the axe out, he took with it a bunch of glass.
Right. And that's all supposed to happen in the split second.
Right, in the moment. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So, movie editing is what it is. But at the same time, it's like, come on. Like, he just disappears and reappears like however long further back.
Now, the only thing that I will say in defense of the situation is that Toecutter knew what he was going to do.
Right.
He was already mentally going through his steps. Okay, I'm going to hit the windshield, rip my axe back, and I'm going to slow down immediately.
Yeah.
He already knows what he's going to do. The car has no idea what's going to happen. It's like when you're driving and you have a passenger and you put on your brakes maybe a little bit too fast. You're fine. As the driver, you're fine. But your passenger gets pushed forward a bit because as the driver, you know exactly what's going to happen. And you naturally prepare yourself for it.
Yeah.
Well, as the passenger, you haven't the faintest idea. You don't know what to prepare for. So I think it's the same thing. And then also, as far as the rest of the 6 riders go, I think they were all probably already hanging back.
Yeah.
And then once they saw Toecutter's plan unfolding, I'm sure they drew more back.
Yeah. They
started slowing down once they saw how things were unfolding.
Yeah.
But the couple in the car, because they're completely oblivious to what could be happening to them and make absolutely no preparations at all, end up panicking, spinning out, ending up on the side of the road.
Yeah, I'd like to think that the lieutenants of the Acolytes gang especially have been riding with Toecutter long enough that they're able to just kind of follow his lead and pick up what he's putting down on the fly.
Yes, which is what we've seen them do up till this point.
Yeah.
He hasn't had to lay anything out for them.
Yeah, and we kind of see after the car spins out on the side of the road, Toecutter comes to the stop and they kind of form up behind him. Mm-hmm. He puts his kickstand down, they put their kickstands down. They recognize, okay, now we're stopping and now we're all pulling out weapons to charge the car, which is exactly what they do.
Yes.
It looks like Kundalini and Mudguts are kind of in the lead as far as rushing towards the car. And then it looks like Clunk is also one of the guys that are heading towards the vehicle. But the couple in the car, they don't know what's going on.
No,
like
they seem very disoriented.
Dazed, just completely out of their heads as far as what's going on.
Yes.
They have no idea what's about to happen to them.
Nope.
And what is going to happen to them is a subject for tomorrow.
Yes.
Because the minute ends with a confused and dazed Lair glancing around the car trying to figure out what's going on. And then all heck breaks loose. But like I said, that's for tomorrow. In the meantime, our website is madmaxminute.com. You can follow us on Twitter at madmaxminute and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/madmaxminute.
Thank you for joining us for Mad Max Minute number 26. We'll see you tomorrow.
Motorbikes and leather men.